Joining us now is Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Foundation. Mark, so good to have you here. Good afternoon. So your organization has provided legal representation to Charlene Carter. Can you just give us a quick overview here of what happened? What was the decision, and how was the Transport Workers Union in Southwest found to have discriminated against Carter based on her beliefs?
Yeah, Don, this is a 9-year odyssey, legal odyssey for an individual employee who basically communicated with her union official, the people that, quote, represent her in her workplace, in a private messaging system saying she opposed what the union was doing with her money that she had to pay as a condition of employment. She couldn't have continued to work at Southwest unless she paid the Transportation Workers Union money each month for the right to work. And so when she voiced her opposition to the positions that the union was taking on matters that had nothing to do with the workplace, nothing to do with how Southwest Airlines was handling the relationship with employees, but had everything to do with politics, she objected. And when she objected, the union president went to Southwest Airlines and had her fired from her job. She did not have a single blemish in a 20-year work record with the airline, but yet because she spoke up privately to the union official, they had her fired. She obviously came to the foundation. We litigated the case down in Texas in the district court and then at the appellate court. And down, as I mentioned, it's been a 9-year legal odyssey. She finally got paid almost $1 million by the union and the airline for a violation of her rights in the workplace. And so what ended up as a long battle ended up well for Charlene Carter, and hopefully spreads the word to others employees that want to speak up on issues related to their beliefs and their ideas. And the union can't thwart that. And that's what this case is all about.
Okay, so Mark, can you reiterate for us again, because I think this is important. What is the problem, or is there an inherent problem that you see with unions using its resources for political advocacy that doesn't necessarily align with members who actually are paying fees?
Yeah, absolutely. That is the injustice. The idea that the union can take away the right for you to speak for yourself in the workplace. And then to add insult to injury, they can force you to pay dues and fees as a condition of keeping your job. That's the outrage. It's unfortunately been the law since the 1930s during the Roosevelt administration, when the Congress gave unions dramatic powers over the American worker. And the idea that you're forced to give money to a private organization, i.e. a union, that will use that money for political or ideological causes that you oppose, that basically violate your morality and violate the very essence of who you are and what you believe, and then to have them be able to punish you when you say something about it is an injustice. And unfortunately, it's still the operational law under the Railway Labor Act, which covers airlines, and under the private sector labor law, which covers private sector employees, for workers who are not laboring in right to work states, where they can withhold that money if the union's using it for causes like this. It's an outrage.
And it raises the question, for me at least, if these marches or these rallies, whether they're organic or are they funded by certain groups, but that's a discussion probably for another time. But I wanted to get your reaction. You know, even though courts confirmed the Transportation Workers Union in Southwest violated Carter's rights, you know, she's still forced to subsidize to pay the union. What is your reaction to this?
Yeah, well, she's opposed to that. Yeah, Don, that's a great point. She's flying today for Southwest Airlines, but she still has to pay union dues or fees to keep her job. It's outrageous. The fact is, though, that this case has been, it was a $5 million jury award to start from the district court. And of course, we met the statutory caps on punitive and compensatory damages. Charlene's got, she's got her victory. We've got our victory. And the American worker now can see that when a union tries to stop you from speaking up on issues that have nothing to do with the workplace, again, and are just, you making your case known to an organization that takes your money as a condition of your employment and uses it for causes they disagree with, that there's some relief. And we're going to help workers to do that, just like we helped Charlene.
Okay, what do you hope will be the positive impacts of this case on unions, on workers' rights? What are the ripple effects and the message it sends?
Yeah, well, I think the employers across the country, including large employers like Southwest Airlines, who have a huge revenue stream, that for them, this was really nothing. One employee with courage that stood up, well, they can just say, well, no, fine, good. We got lots of other people. We can do this. But for the unions, I hope this sends a message to them that when people that they claim to represent, who oppose them for whatever reason, whether it be ideological or politically or whatever it is, when they try to speak up about this injustice, when the union tries to coerce them or intimidate them not to speak up, and in this case, ultimately had the worker fired, I hope they learn a lesson as well when they write the check. Well, Charlene's already got the check, but when they wrote the check to reimburse Charlene for the pain and for the problems they caused in her employment life.
And Mark, if you don't mind, can I ask you some broader questions about the state of unions right now while I have you here? I mean, we don't talk very much, but while I have you here, I'd like to ask, is the union's actions in this particular case against Carter part of a broader pattern of unions overall, or is this an isolated case? Are there other cases that are in the same vein?
This is absolutely not a one-off. This is happening every day in the American workplace. In fact, we just finished up with an annual board meeting this past weekend with our board came together and we talked about the work of the foundation. Don, we have 298 active cases on behalf of employees across the country in every walk of life, whether it be in a grocery store or an airline or a security guard or a truck driver. We're helping employees who have the courage to stand up and fight this vindicate their rights. And in the meantime, as we win these individual cases, getting people out of unions they never asked for, never voted for, never wanted, and we can actually broadcast this to more and more workers, and it just kind of explodes the number of calls, the number of contacts, and the number of requests we're getting for legal help across the country. So this is not a one-off. Unfortunately, it's happening every day. This is a dog bites man story as opposed to Charlene, who man bites dog when she wins one, almost $1 million in relief from a union that violated her rights.
Okay, so you're saying there's a number of cases like this or similar in some aspects. So what is the public attitude right now or trust toward unions? You know, just to talk to us about in general, how do they feel?
Yeah, well, you know, union officials like to claim that polls show that people have a generally favorable opinion of labor unions. And that question, yeah, do you have generally favorable about labor unions? A good majority of Americans say this, but when you say, are you in favor of unions forcing workers to pay dues or fees to get or keep a job? It's 80-20. People say, no way, no how should a union be able to have you fired for failure to tender dues or fees, particularly in a case like Southwest Airlines and the Transportation Workers Union against Charlene Carter, where they say, not only do you have to pay us, but you have to put it up when we do things that you oppose outside of the workplace. So it happens, unfortunately, all the time. And the way the law is written, and the way the courts have decided these cases up till now, that power union officials, that privilege union officials have is still in place, particularly in the 24 states that don't have right to work laws. 26 states, this would not be allowed. Texas is a right to work state, but Southwest Airlines is covered by the Railway Labor Act, which allows unions to force workers to pay dues or fees to keep their jobs. So there's more work to be done here. We'll keep doing it. And cases like this show that we can be successful defending workers across America from forced unionism.
Yeah, I really respect the work you guys are doing here. Just one final question, Mark. You know, unions are supposed to protect workers. How are they doing on that?
Yeah, well, look, if they're doing their job and they're focused on the shop floor or the workplace and they're representing the workers there, when the workers gather together, importantly said, voluntarily to amplify their voice in the workplace, the unions have a place in the American workplace. Unions have had a place, and they will have a place. But there's no place for compulsion and force in this relationship. And the unions, because they can force you to pay, they don't have to pay any attention to you or your views because you either pay or you don't work. That's a wrong model. It's a bad model for the unions. And I suggest to them, if they would rely on voluntarism, actually providing services to workers they claim to represent, and do that voluntarily, they'd be a whole lot better off than using the force and compulsion of a law that we will overturn eventually. Now, we'll get it done, we'll fix it. But if they would rely on voluntarism as opposed to compulsion, they'd be a whole lot better off.
Well, all right, Mark, really enjoyed today's conversation, and thank you for protecting workers' rights.
My pleasure. Thank you for publicizing all this. This is an important part of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.